Hey folks, it's Damien reporting live from the You Might Know Her From Patreon with a special Pride update. And that is this month we are giving you, in honor of Pride, a special actress adjacent episode of You Might Know Her From with actor, writer, director Craig Chester. This was a really full circle moment for me and Anne. It was also a really special conversation to have with an artist and a queer artist whose work we both admire and have looked up to for many years. And so we hope you enjoy it. It's a little bit off the beaten actress path, but it is actress adjacent. So enjoy. And then if you want to hear the little rapid fire thing, you can go over to the Patreon.
Hi, I'm Craig Chester, and you're listening to a very special episode of Actress Adjacent, You Might Know Her From.
Folks, welcome back to You Might Know Her From. It's a special Pride actress adjacent episode with writer, director, actor Craig Chester. And I can't believe this happened.
I had Craig Chester at my house, Damien. It was such a thrill. I mean, I feel we get into it a little bit in the interview, so I won't belabor it here, but I really do feel like this was such a special June gift for the two of us, and getting to have him at my apartment and having like a really intimate conversation. It just felt so special. It felt so full circle, as you said. And I feel like he far exceeded my expectations just in terms of Craig's like warmth, his candor, his intelligence. I just think we were so lucky to have him sit down with us. And also just on a personal level, it was very exciting for me to watch you talking to him, because I feel like, you know what I mean? It just, he was such an early part of our friendship when you were talking to me about what his work meant to you and what his memoir meant. And you told me about the Montgomery Clift stuff, which we are going to link out to everything. There's a lot to dive into with Craig, but I really just want everybody to know that it was a very special moment for the two of us, which is the reason why he is one of the very few men we're featuring on our main feed. And again, it's actress adjacent. Don't worry. This is not changing the tenor of our show whatsoever. It is still going to be all actresses all of the time. But we think if you like us, you're going to like Craig Chester. And I just feel like there was so much there to dive into.
So much to dive into. Craig was so lovely. It was such a thrill. There's like long been questions that I've had about projects like Adam and Steve and Swoon and Why the Long
Guido.
Oh my God, Kiss Me Guido, Sex in the City. There's just so much. Oh my God, the anniversary party, which Anne and I love. I'm sure we have talked about at length. And you know, I don't get like at a loss for words many times. I feel like if anything, I could use less of them. But there have been a few times when like a celebrity has caught my, like made me sort of like frozen. And we do this regularly. This is part of our job. So it's like, you know, we're used to it more or less, you know, but Anne has been with me 2 of the 3 times when I have been sort of at a loss for words. One was when we went to see Hoda and Kathy Lee, and we got called inside and we opened a bottle of Prosecco with them, and Anne spilled it all over Kathy Lee, and I just was like silent. And Anne was like, it's Damien's birthday. And I was like, hi. I don't know why, but I was so overwhelmed with how kind they were and like the whole experience. And Anne really was driving the ship. So bless her. And then one of the other experiences was here with Craig Chester, where we were like anxiously waiting barefoot. We showed him our bare feet in Anne's shoeless apartment, and I had unlocked the door. And so Craig came in while I was like staring at Anne, like making a face or something. And he walked in and I was like, ah! I was like startled. Anyway, he had an amazing head of hair, still so smart, so funny, so handsome, so warm, so wonderful. We're so happy he's here. He is back. He is putting more art out for us all. And what a wonderful chat it was. Happy Pride. Please enjoy this special actress adjacent episode of You Might Know Her From. Okay, we're thrilled to be back here on the You Might Know Her From. This is a special actress adjacent episode with actor, writer, and director Craig Chester. Craig, thanks for being here with us.
Hey guys, it's great to be here.
We're very excited to have you. I feel like you have been a formative artist in my own like gay narrative, and then I feel like when Anne and I connected, she was like a lesbian upset Parker Posey obsessed lesbian, and I was like, well, do you know Craig Chester? And so then it was like both of us sort of like getting to teach each other about both of your oeuvre. So it's very special that you're here, so thank you.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Yeah,
I love that backstory.
Intimate.
Yes.
So you were a pioneer in the new queer cinema movement of the early 90s. You appeared in, I'm going to do a little laundry list here for our listeners, groundbreaking works like Swoon, about Leopold and Loeb, Mary Harron's I Shot Andy Warhol, as well as Kiss Me Guido, Frisk, Grief, among many others. You've written that while you were doing press for Swoon, you sort of like made a decision to clap back at a reporter who asked you like if it was icky for you to kiss your male co-star. So how do you look back at this time, like this period in your career, and your decision to publicly come out in that moment?
Oh, well, it wasn't really, I mean, my decision to come out in 1992 when Swoon was about to come out, it was at Sundance actually. And, you know, you have to remember that time, like in 1992, like my whole identity, I moved to New York in 1984, in December of 1984. It's right when HIV AIDS was like exploding. I was 19 years old. So like my identity as a gay man was forged through like AIDS activism. And like as a little twink, it was about like marches and things like that and protest and what you were doing for the cause. So like my whole identity was wrapped up in the silence equals death mentality of that moment. Because my friends were, you know, I was in my 20s and my friends were starting to get sick and die, and it was just all about that. So when I was in my first movie, when Swoon happened, and I was in that situation, it just was where I was already there in that place. When I moved to New York, I wanted to be an actor, and I was in a play that Joanne Woodward wrote and directed. But I wasn't very good on stage. I wasn't good at projecting, like to the back row. Whenever I did project, I just was bad. Like I couldn't be good. And so she was like, well, you're really like a film actor. You're not a theater actor. And I was like, well, I don't want to be a film actor because I don't want to be in the closet. Because that back then that was just, you just had to be in the closet and I want to be successful. And she was like, well, why do you have to be? And this is like in 1989. So Joanne was the first person she was like a mentor of mine, and she just was like, why do you have, you know, so whenever I started sending out photos to Backstage, you know, magazine, like for auditions, and I went to an open call for Swoon. So whenever I got it, the movie was, the director, Tom Kalin, and Christine Michon were both very involved in AIDS activism already. So that was just the mentality of which the whole movie was made, was like activism on some level. With activists, and Tom was very involved in this thing called Grand Fury, which was an artist collection to fight stigma with HIV/AIDS through art. So it just was an extension of what I'd been doing for like my mentality at the time. Although I knew at the time, I didn't really know what I was doing. Although I knew that it was going to be, I knew that, you know, I didn't know if it was going to affect my career, but I wasn't really that ambitious in that way. Because back then it was like, who knows if I'm going to still be here in 10, you know, it was a different mentality. Yeah. So when Swoon got a distributor and I, at that Sundance, I was signed with William Morris, and I had a big agent suddenly. I was 25 and, but I was you do a ton of press, you know, when you're at a festival, and there was a reporter who asked me, so what's it like to do a love scene with another man? He's just like trying to talk around it. And I was like, why don't you ask me what it's like to murder a child on screen? Yeah. Like, it's that easier to understand. That quote often gets attributed to my co-star, but that was actually something that I said. But it was, and I just was like, I'm gay and blah, blah, blah. And so it was the nature of the movie combined with like me having my first job, my first moment as an actor. So it really felt very organic. But I didn't know what I was doing. And I remember also being like, am I shooting myself in the foot? My parents were like, don't talk about being gay, because they wanted me to be successful. And I remember being very scared and conflicted a lot about, am I hurting? Am I sabotaging myself? So, I mean, I wasn't just blindly doing this. I knew that it was going to maybe hurt me, and it did hurt me. And I did experience a lot of homophobia when I first went to Hollywood, mostly in Hollywood. But yeah, that's how it happened.
Did you feel pressure from your agents or your team once you got out there that this was like, you really shot yourself in the foot, or was it less explicit than that?
I didn't in New York. Like my New York agents were cool. They're the ones who really signed me. But when you get signed with an agency like William Morris, you're represented by both coasts. Yeah. So when I went out to LA to make Grief, my second movie, which was shot there, Swoon came out around the same time, and I got nominated for a Spirit Award. And William Morris, I went in to meet with this agent I didn't know. It was like, because I was sort of assigned with him, and he was gay. And in the meeting, he was sort of like being like being my girlfriend, and sort of like talking shit and just being sassy and and we were just like being two gay men together. And he was like, "Are you going to bring your boyfriend to the premiere?" And I was like, "Oh yeah," because I was dating this guy in New Mexico at the time. And then like shortly after that, like a week later, my agent in New York said they didn't want to work with me in LA, and I knew it was because I was out. And because I had a movie, I was starring in a movie that was about to come out and was getting lots of attention. So it's really unusual. And so, and then my Spirit Award nomination came out, and my friend Dustin called me from New York, and he's like, go to the Bourgeois Pig and get the Hollywood Reporter and look on the back cover. And I'm like, why? And he's like, just go. I was in LA, so I drove and back then you had to buy a magazine to read it because you had to get in the car. And in the back cover, it had like, we congratulate our Spirit Award nominees, Craig Chester, Harvey Keitel, and it was William Morris ad. And they paid for this expensive ad, even though they had dropped me. And I went to like the Spirit Awards without an agent, which was kind of crazy. And that wouldn't really happen today. And so I see like actors like Jonathan Bailey, who I think is like the end game of what, we were all trying to get to happen, because he's like such a big star and it doesn't matter. And I saw him say the other day, he's like, he wants to be able to bring his boyfriend to the premiere. That's why he came out. And I was like, that's exactly what I said 30 years ago. But that was just, even in my 20s, I knew that like, even at that age, I knew that whatever I was doing would not pay off for me, but it would eventually for someone else. Like I even had that idea, because like before there was a David Bowie, there was like another guy that was a David Bowie, who had like the pink hair and so there's always that person, and like I'm that person for those people, which even in that age I knew. But I've always been okay with that. I understood, I accepted it right off the beginning. I never was like, I should be more famous. I never had that, because I knew that I was very realistic about the political climate that I came out in, and so and
it's still like, I feel like we don't really have a gay male movie. I mean, Jonathan Bailey obviously was in a massive film, but I will be interested to see like the way he's able to. I hope that for him, I hope all of those things.
Yeah.
So Craig, in your memoir, Why the Long Face, you have a lot of commentary about this era in your career where it's like, I think you say something like, when Hollywood finds a hit, like a superhero movie or something, it's like, let's turn out like 1,000 more superhero movies, and because they have no imagination. But then it's like, except for when it came to gay characters in the 90s. So that was like Will and Grace had Sean Hayes, but it's like, that's it. We don't want any more Sean Hayeses, which is an interesting moment. Were there any projects that you felt like you were on the cusp of, or like you even had like a window into like, hey, look, there's a gay guy and he's out and we can get him to do this, but like it fell through for any number of reasons?
I was up for Will and Grace, so I was actually up for that show. I was up for Sean's part.
Okay.
Because Kiss Me Guido was out at the time.
Right.
So I got down to tested for the studio, the whole thing.
Wow.
I mean, it's when I think back to that time too, like it was every single gay role got so much attention. Like it was like it was scrutinized, and there were people that liked it and didn't like it. It was either they were like a cartoon of a gay person, and they weren't edgy enough, or they were but it's one of my experiences working as an openly gay actor and working in gay content is that you realize fairly quickly that no one's going to be happy with everything that you do. So you kind of like learn to quickly resign yourself to that. Like at Swoon, there was like protest at Outfest with Queer Nation, like because there's about 2 gay guys killing a child. And there was like all this. GLAAD came out against the movie. So I mean, it's right from the beginning. I just knew that it was never going to be. Everything I did was going to be controversial. When I was in Kiss Me Guido playing like a flaming drag queen, I got flack from that too, playing a stereotype. So you never can win. And so it's something good about accepting that in a way.
Yeah.
It's like, I know that I'm not going to please everybody.
It's healthy.
Yeah, it's just it's called mental health. Yeah.
No, I mean, I feel like I don't know that I'd read another book of an actor working in that era that really talked so plainly about it. And it's really a great read if you guys haven't read it.
Thank you.
We wanted to touch on Christine Vachon, who you've talked about, who's like a lesbian icon,
Yes.
incredible producer of indie films throughout the ages, is just doing incredible work. What can you say about working with her and what sort of collaborator she was? And are you familiar with her Twitter account and what she covers?
I'm not on Twitter, so I don't know about that. But I know she posts a lot on Facebook in airport lounges.
Yes, she loves to cover what wine is in international like private lounges at airports. I'm like, I love that this is the work that you do.
She has a following for that. I know, she has a following. I personally, when I made Swoon, she was also the producer and the AD. So she had that unfortunate job to do as well. But my experiences of her were when she was first starting. We worked on that. We worked on I Shot Andy Warhol together. She produced Kiss Me Guido. So she was a really big supporter of mine, and also we just were like together a lot in the '90s. But I think the thing about Christine that's great is that she fights for her directors, and the nature of this business is that you have to have someone who's kind of a tough cookie in your corner, because most gay directors like Tom Kalin or Todd Haynes, they're like sweet, they're like sensitive artists, guys. They're not like, and so to have Christine be like the person who's like you have to have that person. It's just the way it has to be. And she fits into that role so well. She's like the tough producer that also is protecting the sensitive, talented artist. And it's a dynamic that is really, that dynamic between like usually gay men and this like strong woman is, I think the gay lesbian dynamic, like you guys, is like very special. Yeah. And she and her directors kind of have that nice chemistry as well.
I love it.
Like you.
The even keeled.
Yeah, it's yin and yang.
I just wanted to insert, Damien, I know we didn't put this in, but we talked to Guinevere Turner, who also is like from the similar era.
I love her. She's like my sister.
Yeah, and I on social media, you were like, oh, we both like live upstate now, or in the Hudson Valley rather. And it's like, I feel like you guys were both so formative in like the lesbian and gay space. I mean, it's just a nice connection for our listeners who also are familiar with her work. She's like
my, what was Go Fish and Swoon came out at the same time. And she was openly gay, lesbian. I was openly gay. We both became television writers later. Yeah. Like we had such similar careers, and I just love her. So we always used to joke, we're like, when we get older, we should make like a movie where we play like lovers. We're like we're a married couple. We should do like Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf or something like that.
Yeah,
honestly,
together and
sign me up.
That would be like, maybe we'll do that someday. But that's where they should mix it up and play heterosexuals at some point. And we're like having sex.
I just went back to listen to our interview with her, which was from our first season, so it was 2019, so it was quite a while ago, and we talked to her similarly about like it's funny to listen to us interview people 7 years ago, but it's like the decision to come out, and she was like, I don't know that it was like a decision. I think it was just like a natural part of like, I was at Sundance, this was a lesbian film that I made with my partner at the time, and it was about lesbians, and she's like, if I she's like, talking about I think in Go Fish they talk about Jodie Foster and like that she should come out, and she's like, but also like if you were if there was a person trying to commit assassinate someone in your name, that you might also want to be like fiercely private and not want to come out. And it was good to like hear that back. And so when we were preparing for this, I was like, I wonder if you felt similarly, like it was just like a natural extension of who you are and what the political time was.
I mean, I think when people talk about Woodstock, and they're like, we didn't know it was a thing at the time. Like, I think we knew when this was happening. This was like a movement happening. The new queer cinema. It wasn't like I knew what was going on. I knew it was part of this thing that was happening. So it's also like sort of disingenuous to be like coquettish about when you're in a famously groundbreaking queer film, to be like, well, I don't want to talk about my. It's sort of like, so it just, I agree with her. It's sort of just the movie in a way helps you, is the context in which you come out, which is a queer film. So it makes it easier than if I was in a romantic comedy and I came out like it, or like, you know, a mainstream.
Yeah, but like Heated Rivalry, I mean, not to throw anyone under the bus, but
Right.
neither of them have publicly, one of them is not gay and the other one has not explicitly said that. And
one of them is a bottom and the other one is, and the other one is not gay.
Yeah,
Right.
it's like, and I don't know that, and I don't know that, you know, they owe it to us to tell us, but it is
Yeah.
interesting when you're in an explicitly gay
Yeah.
piece, you know?
One last bit. Did you feel any? Again, I think the arguments about why people stayed closeted or stayed quiet but were, you know, open in their real life but not in their work life, I think there's a lot to be said there. But did you feel that tension among other actors that you knew were gay but that were closeted in the 90s?
In fact, most of the actors that I worked with that did not come out disappeared. Like
Really?
they didn't go on to do stuff, and I feel like by being open and not making a big deal out of it, just living as an openly gay person, as an actor, I feel like it gave me like more opportunities in a weird way because I think people respected me for that choice and they wanted to kind of like help me. And so I definitely feel like there were people in Hollywood too, like casting directors who saw what I was doing and that how rare it was and wanted to support that, you know, and wanted to give me auditions or give me a break, or so that it was a part of, you know, I did lose jobs, but I also was swept up and supported by people too, that knew that what I was doing was rare and knew that I was potentially by being honest, potentially hurting myself. They took me under their wing, and I had so much. Armistead Maupin was one of the people, like all these, you know, in my 20s, like John Schlesinger came up to me in Santa Fe. I was at a restaurant and he was like, "Hello, are you the actor in Swoon?" I'm like, "Yeah." And he gave me his card. When you come to LA, and and I looked at the card, it's like John Schlesinger, and he's like, "Look me up." And my boyfriend was like, that's the director. And so I did. When I moved to LA, I called up John Schlesinger and he took me under his wing, and I met all these people through him and hung out at his house a lot when Swoon came out. So I had all these older gay men, Mark Crowley, you know, who else? Just like Gavin Lambert, like all these older gay men in Hollywood. Like they sort of took me in, and I was talking to David Drake about this. Like there's something about like that generation of young openly gay actors. We were really supported and mentored by the generation ahead of us, which was a really big part of that time for me. I remember because they were sort of looking at what we were doing and they were inspired because we were like doing what they couldn't do. And so Roddy McDowell was one of the people,
the best,
who I got to know.
It's community. It's community that you would not have had you not come out. That like it gives you like a niche fame and community, you know, amongst, you know, similar brethren and sistren.
100%. And that was the gay community that I came out in, which was very, you know, and because of AIDS and because of the time, like it was, the gay community back then was so kind of lovely in a way. It was so supportive and it wasn't mean-spirited at all. It felt very sober and sweet in a way. And it was kind of hippie, you know, back then. I miss those times. I mean, I liked that. But I want to be that for young, you know, I want to step into that role now for younger gay actors. Not that they're interested in what I have to say, but
they should be. Yeah.
Connor's fine, but there is like there is a because that's what I was taught. You know, that's pay it forward. You know?
So I feel like this interview and this conversation feels like years in the making for us, and something that I've long wondered is you pop up in the film The Anniversary Party. The film is co-written, co-directed by Alan Cumming and Jennifer Jason Leigh, who also star. It, for our listeners, it features a bevy of actors, including Jennifer Beals, Parker Posey, Jane Addams, John C. Reilly, Phoebe Cates, Kevin Kline, John Benjamin Hickey, Dennis O'Hare, Gwyneth Paltrow, and you have a cameo as a party guest. And we don't spend much time with your character, and I was obsessed with this movie. I loved like the director's commentaries, like how you learn that like Matt McGrath, who also has a cameo, was like Alan Cumming's ex, and like you don't get that explicitly unless you watch like a Psychopath, the director's audio. So I always wondered like what is the backstory on your character, or were you just like there for a fun day to like do a favor to friends?
Well, I had a scene that was cut out, so. I'm still in the party scene, but I had a scene with Jennifer that got cut out. So I'm a cutting room floor.
Do you remember what the scene was about, or like the context of who your character was?
It was me. It was us discussing something to do with the past. It was about like when we met and blah blah blah. It was like a sort of I can see why it got cut out. It was just exposition. It wasn't really moving the story forward, but it was just a scene with her and I talking about our relationship and how great it was to be there and support her and her husband and Alan. And but yeah, that was a fun. The thing about that, but sometimes you work on a movie and it's not about like the role, it's about the experience. And that was about the experience because Gwyneth had just won the Oscar.
Oh my God.
And I mean, it was a night shoot too, so it was nights. And when you do a night shoot, it's kind of like summer camp, where you kind of bond with people because you're tired and you're up at 5 a.m. And I just remember like hanging out with all those people, like every night, Kevin Kline and I saw Sophie's Choice like 10 times in high school, which because I wanted, and which I told him, and he was like, "Were you depressed in high school?" I'm like, "Yeah, I was. Yes, I was." And Gwyneth, I mean, she was not what I expected at all. I really liked her. She was really kind of like bawdy in a way, and she. And Benjamin Hickey, who I love.
Yeah, like were those people your cohorts? I feel like that you guys all were sort of like hot, and you guys all came up around the same time ish.
Parker and I were already friends, and Jane Addams and I were friends, and but I met John C. Reilly, and I got to know each other. He came to the premiere of Adam and Steve years later, and I would always run into him in airports, but yeah, and Alan is like, I saw Alan a few months ago in upstate. He has a place up there, so we still are in touch. And yeah, there's just I mean, it's funny because Alan and I used to go up for the same parts. Like when Cabaret came out, like in the mid '90s, we were kind of looked a little bit alike. There was a period, and so we would always go up against each other. And I actually auditioned to replace him in Cabaret, what's one of the most embarrassing experiences of my life because I can't sing or dance. But I tried, and it was just not. It was one of those like you leave and just in the shame spiral.
I mean, I saw, this is my opinion, not yours, but I saw Jane Leaves in it, and I would argue that she couldn't sing either. So it was her and John Stamos when I saw it finally.
Well, you could not sing if you have the bravado, which I did. That's what I didn't have. I didn't have the balls that Alan had. But he's somebody who I've known since back. I mean, most of these people I've known since back in the day, and it's been wild to watch. I love that Parker's having this huge moment, and Alan's having this huge moment, which doesn't surprise me at all because they're just both such amazing actors, and also amazing people. And Alan is just one of the most amazing people. Like he genuinely is like the best person. Like he's got such an amazing way of getting into politics and talking about that in a way that is digestible and not off-putting. He's just so I just absolutely love him. And then like later on, there were times when like he needed a comedian or comic writer to punch up a show he did. He did a show called Laugh Out Loud. It was like an openly gay actor comics thing for Comedy Central, and I worked with him on that, and I wrote all his jokes, and it just is like, want to do this? Yeah, I want to do that. It's sort of like that kind of. There was a sense of community, which is really special, and very much of that time. But
do you watch Traitors?
I've never seen Traitors.
Okay.
I mean, I know it.
If you can get into reality TV, it's worth your time, and if not, maybe not.
I just don't watch TV at all.
Okay.
It's so bad. But
no, it's fine.
I think because when I worked in television, I worked in TV for 15 years, and I just never watched it. When I was in it, it was like, it's like if you drive a bus, you don't want to go on a bus trip for vacation.
Yeah.
It was sort of like that. But I've seen clips of him, and I know how huge it is, and it's amazing.
Yeah.
And the costumes are great.
Okay, so we got to get into Adam and Steve, which you wrote, directed, and starred in. This is a rom-com from 2005, and it stars you, Malcolm Getz, Parker Posey, Chris Kattan, among many others. We love this movie, and like Damien was saying at the beginning, like came to it. You sort of introduced me to it, and it represents like a specific part of gay New York that we really love. Yeah. There's cameos of Marie's Crisis, the Hourglass Tavern, May It Rest, Big Apple Ranch line dancing, which is very close to my heart.
No way, really?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, we went last year.
Yeah.
We went the year before.
Oh my God, it's so great.
I ended up working with a woman who was like very instrumental in it, so I Susanna Stein. I don't know if she was there anyway. She's like a Jewish lesbian fiddler who also line dances.
We love her.
Anyway, I was very
Well, I
moved.
know about 10 of those, so I'm not sure which one you're talking
it's a drop
about.
in the barrel. So you had teased an Adam and Steve sequel, and then the characters met up again in this web series, Adam and Steve Survive MAGA. Is there still more to tell in Adam and Steve? Is there a future for it? Like, what can you tell about like revisiting that world and that universe 20 years later?
I mean, I wrote a sequel called Adam and Steve 55 Plus, which is about us moving to Palm Springs and being retired. And it's just like the first movie. It's just making fun of old gay people, and there's a crazy old queen tap dancing number, just like we had the line dancing.
Yeah.
So I mean, I wrote it, and it was very like a no-brainer. But we just can't get the money. It's just hard to get the money.
Yeah.
So it's on the back burner, but I hope it works out, because it's also, I just think it's where my head's at now, because I'm 60 years old now. I think about like getting older and what's weird to be gay and getting older, and how do you like, I never had a vision in my mind of like what I would be after 55. I never had like a vision of like, well, when I'm 70, I'll be like, I just never, because of the generation I'm from, but I just never imagined myself getting old. And now here I am, and I'm having to like make up for, figure it out on the fly. It's just like, what am I doing? Okay, can I wear that still? Can I wear a hoodie still? And
Yes.
Is that okay?
I mean, I don't know that we're like the arbiters that you should be speaking to about this, but I feel you. And also, I just feel like the movie is so fun. And I moved to New York in 2002 from the Midwest.
Wow.
And I just feel like revisiting it for this interview, I hadn't watched it in a couple of years. And I was just like, oh, it took me right back in the best way. And I feel like
it's such a great New York movie.
It's so
such a good,
great. The writing is so crisp
Thank
and
you.
so funny. And obviously, we'll get to this later, but like stars a lot of women that we love. So
Julie Haggerty.
Yeah.
When I wrote that movie, because I'd been in so many gay movies where I was like being tortured, where it was like,
Right.
I always played like, like either like someone who was suicidal or someone who was like a snob, like an effete, a fabulist or something. But I never seen anything about like having a boyfriend. Like just, there was nothing like that back then. Everything was so like political and edgy. And so when I wrote it, it was really just because I'd been at so many film festivals, traveling with all of these, with movies like Swoon and Frisk, and I showed at Warhol, and so, and I noticed when I would go to gay film festivals that like most of the audience were couples, like gay guys who lived in Cincinnati, a couple that went to the gay film, and someone asked me once, like during a Q&A, when are they going to make a movie about us, like, and I thought, and I was like, well, I guess I'll make that movie, and I always had boyfriends, and it was about meeting the parents and like, and all this stuff that normal stuff, but so it came out of that desire to like want to show those images, but also make fun of it. That's why like our love montage is like a gay bashing love montage, because it's there are ways in which it's different if you hold hands in public and you're in a love montage. But but yeah, that was such a, and I lived in Hell's Kitchen. So like I wanted to, there's a scene at Amy's Bread. I wanted to show, which is still there. I wanted to show up at Amy's Bread.
Yes. Okay.
And I went to the Big Apple Ranch and all the places that were special to me. Marie's Crisis, Parker and I have the same birthday.
Okay.
So we always had a birthday together, and we would have it at Marie's Crisis a lot. So I wanted to like, and I still get emails or messages on social media from people that are like, we went to New York and we did the Adam and Steve tour, and they send me pictures of themselves at Marie's Crisis and at the Hourglass Tavern. And it's like, it's so nice. I feel like I'm, it's nice to know that those places got some business out of it. And
yeah, that's lovely.
I watched it a few years ago with our friend Nick, who had never seen it, and I was like, I love this movie, we got to watch it. And then I hadn't revisited it, I feel like, in so long, and I was like at a much different age then watching it, and knew all of those gay spots in a way that I didn't when I had first come to it. And you mentioned the gay bashing montage, so I feel like this is important to get in. There's a wonderful song called Love, Love, Love by Courtney Love that is unfortunately is not streaming, but she's sort of doing this weird affectation. I was shocked when I found out it was her. How did that particular Easter egg come to be? And like, we love her.
Well, Roddy Bottom did the score, who's
Faith No More.
Yes, right. Who has a new book out of his memoir, which is amazing. So Roddy knew her from back in the rock and roll days, and he's known her since like the early '90s. So when we were talking about we needed this love montage song, he wrote it, and he suggested Courtney, and I was like, absolutely. So we recorded it in his house in Silver Lake, and we recorded the song, and it was like magic. I spent the day with her, and she was so great, so lovely, and just I got to see a glimpse of their friendship, which was also really beautiful and long. And so yeah, that was an Easter egg. That was like a gift. That was a gift.
It was great, and she's great. She's also active now on social media, and
Love
I'm
it.
very into it.
Yeah, I saw her too. I started following her. Chateau Marmont. Yeah.
You use the song Something Good from the film version of Sound of Music in the movie. Did you have to fight for those rights to get that? It seems like a tricky thing to harness for like an indie comedy.
There were so many things like that with it. Like we had people helping us. Like
Okay.
the most Obsession, the Animotion song in the beginning was like the most expensive thing.
Okay.
That was like $25,000 or whatever. And the biggest song was John Lennon's Love at the end, the very last song, which was like $1 million. But John Cameron Mitchell is my friend, and he knows Yoko Ono, and so he helped finagle that situation. She donated the song to the movie.
Okay,
there's all these things behind the stories that people don't know, but like Yoko Ono was, because she was a fan. It was 2005, and she was a supporter of gay marriage. I mean, it wasn't even a thing yet, but she supported what the movie was about, and she let us put it over a gay wedding. And so that was like it was just people helping me. The movie cost $1.5 million, which back then was like actually quite a lot for a gay movie. But we just had so much support from like that. Like John knew Yoko, and she gave it to us for free. The Something Good thing was more of a, if I remember right, the challenge was not so much the finances, so much as like, they wanted to know in what context it was going to be played.
Okay.
And so the fact that it was a gay guy singing to another, that was where there was a little bit of massaging that I remember had to happen with the estate.
Okay.
But they ultimately were fine with it. But it was like, what I remember is less of a financial problem and more of like
Interesting.
Are they okay with a gay guy singing a song to another gay guy in a gay bar? And it was fine. But I remember that had to be massaged by someone else involved in the production. But yeah.
Yeah.
So Parker Posey plays your best friend Rhonda, who is a stand-up comedian, and in the beginning of the film, like in a flashback, is in a fat suit, and then in present day is still doing fat jokes in her stand-up set, but is no longer fat. There's gay scuttlebutt that this character was inspired by character actress Jackie Hoffman. Is there truth to that, or is that conjecture by gays?
No, this conjecture. Yeah,
Okay.
no, that literally was like came out of Parker when I was writing this. She's like, I want to play someone who is fat and used to and that's her best material. And now she's not fat anymore. It was like just like, that's what came out of. It was like I wrote the part for her for that reason.
Yeah.
Because and the great thing about making that movie too, like I was able to like make like. We did all these stage readings of the screenplay, and they were such a hit that they almost became like a thing of their own. Like, we should take these on the road, because it was like I staged the readings to raise money to invite investors so they could see it, because I know reading a comedy is different than hearing it, and I wanted to be in control of how they experienced it. So like there was a period in New York, like in 2003, where like all these actors were in this Adam and Steve reading. Alan Cumming played Steve in one reading with me before Malcolm came along. Jane Addams played Rhonda. Ileana Douglas played Rhonda. Like all of these people. Margot Kidder played my mom in one of the readings.
We'll take anything you got on Margot Kidder.
Well, we did a reading at Fez. Remember Fez?
Oh my God.
Time Cafe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
And she played my mom, my unlucky mother, and she was on stage, and it was so funny because she was getting all these laughs. Like every time she had a line, the house would just like go crazy. And then afterwards, she'd be like, why are they laughing? I'm like, because it's funny. She's like, she didn't get the comedy at all.
Played it straight.
Yeah.
Great.
Because she just doesn't get
the truth in comedy, babe.
Yeah.
Don't close that.
And she was so great. I have a picture of her. I've got to find this picture from that night, but she was so great playing my mom. And, but yeah, then I wrote the part for Parker because I knew her, and then I wrote whenever I was out at a party and I saw Malcolm there, and I didn't know him that well, but I was like, he would be like a good Steve. And so I came up to him like, hey, I have a screenplay that I was wondering if you, and he was like, yeah, you got a screenplay, blah, blah, blah. So he read it, and then he did the reading. And the night that he did the reading, it happened to be Chris Kattan was in the role of Michael, Parker was there, and then that was the night that it all came together, and like that was the cast. Like, and so I rewrote Steve to be more like right for Malcolm. So I added in stuff that I know Malcolm, would relate to, and also I made Steve like a former AMDA, musical theater guy, so he could sing to me at the end. But I wrote it for him because he's got such a beautiful voice.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, just Malcolm has to sing. And so that's what's great about being the writer director, because you can just make it right for the actors. And that sensibility went on to help me a lot when I went to write for television, because then I was writing for actors, and I'm an actor, so like I knew that was like one of my strong suits as a writer too.
Yeah, the movie is so wonderful, and it just like holds up, and I feel like the dialogue is so funny, and I feel like there's this great like recurring line that you and Parker both say about like you're an asshole who's also a baby, and it's like it's like so it's just a really well crafted line, and I was like, this is still funny all these years later. It makes me happy.
It doesn't feel that dated. I mean,
it doesn't. It really doesn't.
There's no one's on their phones, but it doesn't feel that. It still feels pretty. That's the thing, because I've been in movies that feel incredibly dated now. Like my second movie, Grief, was like, oh my God, I'm wearing like suspenders and a mock turtleneck and people in their Doc Marten. It's just so 90s, but it's kind of great that way. It's like such a great snapshot.
Yeah.
And Swoon doesn't age. It doesn't feel aged.
No, I feel like
it's also black and white.
Yeah.
So
totally.
Yeah.
Okay, Craig. So you've told a story. I'm going to try to give, and you're going to help us out so this makes sense to our listeners. But you told a story about Montgomery Clift essentially haunting you for the better part of at least the last 20 years, but even maybe before that when you were still a young person. And you've told the story at the Moth on public radio. You've retold it on some other podcasts. I encourage all of our listeners to go and find, which one would you say, the Rachel Dratch Woo-Woo most recent
Rachel
episode?
Dratch Woo is the most recent. There's also a really good radio documentary that won all these awards called I Am Montgomery Clift. It's on kcrw.com.
Okay.
That's the one you listen to.
That's where they interview Parker and the psychics and me, and it's really well done. It's a beautifully made documentary. They did a good job.
There's just like too many coincidences between this ghost story and like there's something here. So I encourage everyone to listen to it. You were working on a biopic or a script about his life, and then you also were working with HBO on a project that was sort of about your search through this ghost story. Like, what is the latest on both any creative projects around Montgomery Clift, and also like what is the latest with the ghost?
I just picked it up again, and so I'm working on it in earnest. In fact, a few days ago, I saw Reverend Catherine, who's one of the psychics, and we went to Monty's old restaurant, the Isle of Capri on 61st and 3rd Avenue. So just 2 days ago,
Right by his old home. And it's been 20 years since I met Catherine, so we had a little like 20-year friend anniversary thing, and so it's picking up again. I mean, it's the thing that I'm the most focused on right now, because it's also the thing that I feel like I have to do, because it's like I've been incredibly resistant to this whole thing the whole time. It's like, I don't know why. I think part of it was I had a hard time understanding what it was about for a while, because aside from it being just like a cool ghost surreal or whatever, like aside from that, and so sometimes when something happens to you, it's a personal story. You don't really understand it until you look back in retrospect. So now I have enough distance from it now to understand what it's about and to write about that. But it was like that period of it was right when Adam and Steve came out. This started because I got approached by all these agents in Hollywood wanting to represent me as a comedy director and come to LA, and I didn't really see myself doing that. So I went to see a psychic, Reverend Catherine, and she was like, "There's a spirit of a dead actor around you," and I thought she Googled me, what do you tell a gay guy that Montgomery Clift? Yeah, it's sort of like that. So I just blew it off, and I went to LA, and then my dad had this business partner, a guy named Sam, who lived in Orange County, and his wife
they wanted to have dinner with me because my dad was showing me up, like, my son's got a movie coming out. So I went to dinner with them, and then as we're talking, his name came up because we're talking about the closet, and then she's like, "That's him. That's the guy behind you. You walked in with," and she told me the same thing.
This woman was also
she's a psychic. And I was like literally like mic drop, like spoon drop, like what's going on, and it was just the most inexplicable thing. Like I was not a believer. I still don't even understand really what it is, because sometimes I'm like, are we just all Wi-Fi, and you know what I mean? And time's not real, and you're reading my mind, and so right. I don't really know, but I know that something was going on that is possible to explain. Some things could be explained, but there are things that couldn't be explained. So I kind of went down the rabbit hole trying to understand what was going on with my Monty ghost story, because it was actually my job to understand it, and I ultimately got to the place where I'm like, that's like the ocean, and my brain is a teacup, and I can't put the ocean in a teacup or the teacup will break. Like that's, you just have to some point go like, there's something else. I don't know what it is, but I just know there's something else going on. And that's where I'm at with it today. But I still, I understand him differently in a different way now that I'm older, 20 years later. Like I have a different perspective. I'm also in recovery, so like I understand. He's basically like an alcoholic who died of alcoholism. So like I understand his isms more than I did then, because I've been through so much more since that happened, and so I'm reapproaching it with a completely different perspective and also a lot more clarity now.
You talked about even like the idea that he was not comfortable yet, like with his legacy being that he was like a closeted drunk, and that he like had years where he would stop drinking, and that you said like in your own recovery you were like, well, now I have more empathy for like, hey, what about my work? Like I'm also a good uncle. Like why is this just my story is all this one thing?
That's the thing that happened to me, because when I was, it's so funny because we kind of missed the point in that whole thing, because there was the ghost story took on so much, it got so much traction, and it was so interesting that I realized at some point, like we all sort of missed the point of what he was trying to get across, which is like, can you help me, tell people that I'm not just this, I'm more than just, they got me wrong. Like Patricia Bosworth wrote this book about him. It was very salacious. Yeah. And he was never, it's really a story about like, this need to want to tell your own story and not have someone else steal it from you and tell certain things to sell books or whatever, which is what she did. So, and then I wound up, having my own drug problem experiences with that after the fact, and suffered a lot and lost a lot because of that. And so, and I never thought about Monty at all when that was happening. I never even occurred to me, because I was so busy trying to like survive and deal with all this mess in my life. But then as I started to get sober again, I was like, this is kind of true of me too now. Like I'm not just like the fact that I had a relapse and I was a homeless crystal meth addict for like a year. I not to minimize it, but it's like, but then you do get better, and you're like, okay, that happened, and then now I'm 3 years sober this Thursday, but it's not. I understand him in a different way, because I lived in my car in 2019. And I never understood why Monty was so obsessed with going to his house in the story, the Monty story. He wanted me to go to his house. He wanted me to spend the night there. I did wind up spending the night there where he died. But now I understand what it's like because I lost my house. I understand the longing of wanting to go home. And I'm like, now I know what ghosts haunt houses, because they want to go home. Like I understand that longing in a way. So I still feel like everything that's happened to me in this weird, like, prolonged lifelong way is some way weirdly related to Monty. I weirdly still find myself making sense of my own life through him, which is not what I expected, but it still continues to go on. Like we are mirroring each other, even still, because we both had facial reconstruction. I became more handsome. He lost his looks, and so there's this weird twinning thing that's happened, and it's even. Now that I'm sober again, I'm on the other side of my own self-destruction, which he died from, and I didn't die. I see, like, I learned the lesson of, like, to tell your own story, to not let someone else tell it. Like, all of the lessons are there for me through his example. And so there's a kind of a theme of, like, older gay men and younger gay men mentoring, mirroring each other, I noticed today. But yeah, he's still my, there's something going on there. The first time I saw him, I was in my I was 19 and I just had my jaw surgery, and my dad rented a bunch of old movies for me to watch on VHS, and he rented a place in the sun, and I was home alone in the house, and I popped it in, and the first shot is of him backing up and his face turns and it's this full close-up of his face. And the first time I saw him, I got scared, and I got up and I locked all the doors in the house and I closed the garage door. It was the middle of the afternoon. I had a weird feeling like someone was going to break into the house, is the feeling I had, but it was like middle of Texas and then in retrospect, I look back on that and I'm like, why did I do that? Maybe I felt him or something. So there's always been this kind of weird thing. And the fact that I was openly gay, he couldn't do that. And the fact that I was able to get, to go into recovery now as a gay man, there's so much support. Like there's like meetings and parties and, it's like, there's so much to do. But back then it's just like, he was very much a product of his generation, and I'm very much a product of mine, and I'm very aware of like that I can get better and have all these tools and support because I'm living in 2026, as a gay man. But
it's kind of incredible and really beautiful to revisit. So we're going to link out to all of the stories for those of you that want to pursue it. But yeah, I feel like you've tapped into something that is very powerful. Anyway, sorry, I feel very moved by it. In like January of 2026, I think that we found online that James Grissom, the author who started Follies of God, has sort of started writing your story online. And I think it's called The Rapture of Craig Chester. Yes, part 1 on his Substack. So there's a lot there. Is this something like, where are you with this? Is there more to come? Are you working with him on another memoir? Is there a one-man show? What?
I mean, James, when I was homeless, James reached out to me a few times, and which was actually kind of unusual, and it meant a lot to me.
Did you know him before he reached out to you?
I met him in 2014. We both had the same book agent, Edward Hibbert, and we were with the same agency, and and Donadio and Olson was our book agency, and they wound up getting involved in this extortion thing. We're stealing our royalties. Okay,
yeah, I know. I've read a little bit online about the Edward Hibbert stuff, and I was like, what is happening there? That's not the point of this conversation, but I am interested.
Yeah, so James,
I was like, what is this? But yes,
James and I bonded because we both had our royalties stolen and so we were talking about, he was more upset about it than I was, and he would tell me updates, and so we got to know each other over this whole situation.
Got it.
And then a couple of years later, I was, had relapsed and was living in my car, and he did reach out to me, and he was concerned for me, and that meant a lot to me at the time. So whenever I moved back to New York, he was like, I wanted to write something about you and about what happened, and because I had this personal experience with you, and I said, so we started talking, and a lot of the stuff that he's written was stuff I already told him. He knew was not news to him, but he's writing his own thing and for Substack, and it's something that he's doing. I'm working on my own separate, book about it, and I'm writing a memoir about that time now. Because what I'm writing about my homeless experience, because that experience was so eye-opening. Because I went from living like in a castle, literally the Beechwood Chateau Beechwood on Beechwood Drive under the Hollywood sign, to like living in my car within like a day, and so that. I had never really been that I was never like homeless. The homeless situation was not something that was like my cause. It didn't interest me intellectually. I drove past homeless people every day. I felt bad for them, but I thought, they're doing their heroin and they're sleeping in their tents, and it's kind of like camping. Like I didn't understand what it was really like until I was in that situation. And so having gone through that and understanding like how difficult it is to get out of it, unless someone literally grabs you and pulls you out of it, was the most epic thing I've ever been through, in terms of just like all my problems before then had been like neurotic, like I'm sabotaging myself, or I have low self-esteem, or just neuroses or white people problems. But this was the first time in my life where all of my problems were external. Like, where do I go to the bathroom? Just how do it was all about these like day-to-day survival thing. And I met so many amazing people when I was in that situation in Hollywood. I was homeless at Gower and Franklin, like right in the middle of like the Hollywood homeless piece. And so I feel a kind of sense of obligation to like write about it or just do something with it, because I know that it's an unusual thing that I was in that situation, and I have a lot to say about it because it's not what people think it's like. And so I'm working on I'm not sure what it wants to be. I was working on a book or novel about it, a memoir about it. But the thing about the experience is it was like a memoir is like all about your inner monologue. And I had no inner monologue when this was happening. I was like, how do I do this? And where do I go there? It was all about the people I was meeting. So I don't know if it's better as a series or as a movie or something that's visual, because it isn't really like, I'm not sure if it suits the memoir form.
Okay.
I don't really like edition memoirs too. I think they're boring. I just don't like them. I've read them and I'm just like, it's the same story over and over again. But the homeless part of my story is like and all the other gay people I met that were homeless, it was all gay people. I ran into a guy that I hooked up with on Grindr who was homeless, and I had no idea that he's like, you're here too. And like before I lost my house. And so there's just so much. It's such great. There's just so much. There's so much, and also it's like becoming like it's such a problem now. When it happened to me in 2019, it was before it was really like people really were talking about it, but especially in LA. So I don't know. James is writing about it. He's making it about himself. That there's another chunk coming out soon.
I see.
But it's really about his perspective of what it was like to know me during that. It's not really from my point of view. It's more like from his point of view what happened. So, but yeah, it's coming out soon, I think.
Okay.
He submitted it to Vanity Fair online, I know, but he's waiting to hear if they're going to publish it. But,
Okay.
But,
Are you, I mean, I'm so glad that you're good and safe, and it's so good to have you here and also to hear your story. But like, have you been able in any respect to like be in touch with any of those people that you knew from that time period in your life?
We're on Facebook together.
Really?
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
And I watched them, when I remember when COVID happened, I was really worried about them.
Yeah.
But they one of the reasons why I post my life a lot is because I know that a lot of those people are watching me get better, and I want to show that they can get better because, like I know that like I remember when I got my 1 year sober, there was a guy who said he got clean because he watched me crashing and burning on Facebook. He went into rehab because it was such a mess, and that meant a lot to me. And it was something that really was like, I feel like so I feel a sense of responsibility to show that people that there's a solution, that you don't have to, that you can get out of like the chemsex, crystal meth, which is like this public health crisis we have in our community that no one's talking about. And it's actually the thing that I feel the most passionate about right now, because it's something that almost killed me. And I have friends who have died from overdoses. And I actually had friends that had died for years of this, but I didn't really think that much about it. I just, when someone dies of a substance use disorder, there's kind of like this sigh and sort of like sad, but there isn't this like call to arms of like, what the fuck's going on? Like, and so I feel like that's coming because I feel like a lot of gay men have trauma that's unresolved. People my generation, we don't really know, we're bad about trauma, but young people understand it.
Yeah.
And so that's something that I definitely learned. And so I feel very passionate about wanting to recover out loud, and so that people can see that it's possible. Because I know when I was in that situation, I hung out with so many guys that were also struggling, and nobody wanted to be doing this, but they couldn't stop. And there was this kind of like sad resignation that this is just something you can never get out of. Because other things like, you've seen movies about alcoholism, you've seen movies about, even like heroin, whatever, but there's not a lot of images of gay men that have overcome this. So like, I feel it's also just like, it's like my brand in a way. So it's sort of like the continuation of that. So it's just like, I'm very open about what I went through and about that I'm better now because, and I notice when I've shared about it on social media, I get my inbox is flooded with like some people that I've worked with that are well known, like are going through the same thing.
Yeah.
And I just think that it's like the next thing that's going to be talked about. It's like, there's going to be there's going to be a conversation about substance use disorder in the gay community. I think it's coming up soon and it's a good thing. It's because it's a disease, and it's a brain disease. And
Yeah,
For sure.
So
I'm so glad that you are vulnerable about it online, because I feel like not a lot of people are, and so it's nice and refreshing, and also like you're funny, so it's not it isn't preachy, and I know that's hard for a lot of people sometimes with recovery stuff. That it's
like the hardest needle to thread, because
Yes.
it's so
Yep.
it's the hardest thing bullseye to hit, because I don't. It's like I don't want to seem like it's not like I have to also say like this was a big deal. It wasn't like anyway I'm better now, and that was
right. You're not
it
glib
was
about
such a
it.
big deal, and I almost died of this thing, and then I didn't die, and so I have a sort of new lease on life feeling right now. It's kind of good to be 60 and have a new lease on life feeling, because I notice it. My recovery gives me like, because I do have this kind of like, life is so exciting. It's all new again, so that's fun. But I, I was talking to Malcolm about this the other day, because he was saying you should do a one-man show about what happened to you, and he was like, maybe I can direct it, and we're talking about this, and so talking about it, and I was like, there's times when it really hits me. I'm like, I look at like when I look at Adam and Steve or something, I'm just like, it was kind of a big deal that this happened to Adam. Like Adam was a homeless crystal meth addict in his car. Like that's what happened. Like there's a kind of curiosity, I think, that's healthy about that, which is like, why? I think I wish people would ask the question why more, because it's better to ask, why is this person doing this, instead of going like, they're just a bad person and they broke bad, and that's so that's what I want to I want to be part of, like explaining what that was and why it happened, and helping other people.
I look forward to the memoir whenever it comes out, whatever
or
form.
one man show, whatever
Yeah.
it looks like, TV
All of
show,
it.
film,
Yeah.
all of
or
it.
musical.
Yeah. Oh, please.
Okay, Craig Chester, we would be remiss if we did this interview with you and we didn't ask about your appearance on the season 4 episode of Sex and the City.
Oh my God.
Coulda, woulda, shoulda, where you play the Hermes clerk.
guy,
Yeah, that's Samantha. She's trying to get a Birkin bag from you for, quote unquote, for her client Lucy Liu. You and Kim are both ADA alum, right? You both went to the same Academy of Acting. How was she as a scene partner? And did you get a sense of any of that drama between the women on your day or days on that set?
I absolutely loved her. I'm not on any team, but I love I love Samantha, and I love Kim Cattrall. So when I got that part, I'd never seen the show. I mean, I knew it was a big hit. It was the 4th season. It was like Emmys, and it was such a big deal. But back then I just didn't like. I just was like, whatever,
you don't watch
living my
TV.
life. I guess. But I went to set. We were the first shot of the day. It was shot at Hermes, Fifth Avenue, and so I showed up the trailer like at 5 a.m. when she was there in her hair and curlers, and we had sat and got hair and makeup together, and I immediately liked her, and I didn't know this character Samantha, but I just met her, and she was like, and at the time I was writing my book.
Did she use a British accent when you met her out of character?
No. She sounded just like Samantha. She even had I don't know if she was in character, but she was like, so I said, oh, it's so nice to be acting today, because I've been really busy writing my book and I'm in my book mode. And she's like, I'm writing a book too. And I'm like, really? What's it about? And she's like, sex.
Yeah,
she said it like Samantha.
Yeah.
And then now I know it's a very Samantha thing to say, but at the time I just thought, and so, but during that period, I used to joke it's like my gay shop girl phase, because I worked at Hermes on Sex and the City, and I worked at John Lop Shoes on Criminal Intent, Law and Order, and I worked at Harry Winston Jewelers on SVU, all in the course of a month.
Yeah.
So I was I would get an acting job, and my friends would be like, "Where are you working this week?" It was like my gay shop girl phase. So. I mean, when you do these kind of Law and Order type shows, and it's when you're a day player, no one gives a shit. You just show up and it's all about the stars, and you just make sure you get your lines out and hit your marks. But on that set, there was such a feeling of it was so fun. She was we hit it off, and she was like, let's do this and let's try this, and what if I snatch the bag away from me at the end? She was coming up with bits, and we were like doing this whole thing.
I love it.
And then after we did my coverage, like when they do my coverage, she'd be like, yay, Craig, yay, and then the whole crew would clap. It was so different from the other shows I'd been on. It had this so much love and joy and fun, and when you watch the show, it's kind of what you see is what it felt like to be there. And she just was so lovely and so supportive in a way that you don't ever get when you're a day player. And then later I ran into her at Sundance. I ran into her at Sundance when I was there with my book. Actually, I went to Sundance in 2003 and I did a book signing on Main Street. And I was like, remember the book I told you I was writing? We did this show. And she's like, oh yeah. So I gave her a copy. I dropped it off her hotel. She read it, wrote me this really sweet note. Just a lovely, generous person. And the only drama I heard at the time was that I don't think she liked her love interest during that period. Like Richard was his name.
James Wright.
Remar?
I don't think she was.
You're right.
I don't think she was happy with that storyline.
Interesting.
And that's why I think she was happy when she got Smith, because she wanted a hot younger,
right.
But I just don't think that they had good chemistry. Yeah. And she's kind of right when you watch it.
Now you're a fan. Now you've seen the show.
Well, so then what happened? So then I watched the show because I was in an episode and I was like, this is great.
Look at this.
This is like about my life. I'm a Carrie. And then my book came out at the same time that her book party in the show, Carrie's book party, was the same week as my book party.
Oh my God.
So I was like, I'm Carrie Bradshaw. Like it was, and I became addicted to the show. My best friends and I, Roger and Jason, I had to get glasses. They already had glasses, and they went with me to pick up. It was like a big, I'm getting older moment, And Jason was like, we're Specs in the City. So then we stole our collar, stole Specs and Specs. And I thought the original Sex in the City was amazing.
Oh, but you
100% agree.
You did say original.
Yeah.
So does that mean you watched And Just Like That a bit?
I did, yeah. I liked the first season because I thought the whole theme about death and big, it was really like adult and good.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't watch the other ones. I didn't watch.
It got rough.
It just you have to have Samantha.
Yeah, the magic like that. Like she is the magic of.
And guess what? She got $1 million for a cameo on a cell phone. So good for Kim Cattrall.
Yeah, that was a rock star move.
It really was such a power
and brought Pat Field back in.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's very cool.
Yeah, it's just you just have to have Samantha.
Yeah.
It's just But I saw the movies. I was like, I loved both of them. I was like such a fan of the whole thing. So yeah. And I get noticed like that one thing, like because of social media,
really?
like that clip gets played because there's so many of these bag influencer people. So like my Birkin bag clip is like daily getting posted.
Probably. Oh my God.
And I have people following me from that.
This is
from
great.
That clip.
Okay,
Yeah.
love it for that.
It was a cultural phenomenon,
For sure.
and I feel like because
The
they put it
Birkin.
on Netflix, eventually, it's like the new generation has caught up to it, which is great.
Yes.
Okay, folks, if you want to hear the rest of our little actress rapid fire where we quiz Craig about all the women that he worked with, and look, there's a laundry list of women that he is attached to. Go on over to the Patreon. As you know, it's the best place that you can support us so that we can keep doing episodes coming back weekly in the fall. This is the best way to support us. So head on over there, listen to Craig talk about
Sally Kirkland, Parker Posey, Lily Taylor.
Oh, there is some good Lily Taylor tea. That's true. Head on over there, folks. You know where to find us. Patreon.com/you might know her from. We'll see you there real soon.